Hi, I'm Nicole Conley, the owner of Reprise Travel. I found Rita on a Hard Travel Agent Chatter podcast episode about her travel agency and her niche, corporate events at sea. This really piqued my interest. So I went to the show notes and found Rita's info, and from there, I found all the amazing programs she has for travel advisors. I binged both of her podcasts and went to her website. She has some amazing resources there. I think the first program we worked together on was the Plan Your Year 2024. I signed up because I really liked Rita's energy, and she happened to mention Marvel and astrology in a couple of her podcasts. And when I heard that, I said, oh, yeah, she's my people. She is a great mentor and role model in the travel industry, especially when it comes to implementation. Because if Rita says she's going to do something, she is going to do it to completion. Then she'll teach you what she learned in the process so that if you decide it's something that's for you, you can do it, but without the initial hiccups. She gives you information you can use. Rita has helped me feel a lot more confident about getting out there and going to in person events and talking about my travel business. Rita has great energy and she's very enthusiastic about the travel industry, and she'll give you actionable steps you can implement now in your travel business.
Hey, Travel Pro. Welcome back to the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast. We are in the midst of prep for Wave Week over here. If you did not know, prep for Wave Week is happening actually next week. It begins in just a few days on October 14th through the 18th. So at the beginning of last week's episode, I gave you pretty much all the information you could use to help you see if Prep for Wave Week is a good fit for you or not. Now, I do want to address, there's some common misconceptions with what people think wave season as and how I run my event prep for Wave Week. So I know a lot of people think wave season cruises. We are not focusing entirely on cruises. Really, when I think of wave season, it is a new wave of business that happens at the beginning of the year. So that's how I personally think about wave season. Something else that had come to me is like, wave season is typically when there's a lot of deals, offers, promotions happening, and not wanting to get people like accustomed to just selling when there's deals or promotions, which was a really great concern that somebody had brought to me. Because also we don't talk about anything about deals, offers, or promotions in Prep for Wave Week. So if you were thinking that that's the perception of the topic of discussion, that those two things are not the highlight of the discussion. The highlight of the discussion at Prep for Wave Week really is to get you to stop thinking like a hobbyist, that this is just a travel business hobby, and to start thinking like this is a travel business, a living, breathing entity that you have to water and tend to and fertilize so that it grows and it flourishes for whatever you need it to be, whether that's just being able to pay extra bills, if that's being able to pay all your travel, if that's being able to replace a full-time or part-time income. But you need to be able to do this thinking strategically and thinking completely with intention. And that's what we get you to do at Prep for Wave Week as you're going through all the different presentations that are offered. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of those common misconceptions. Now, as you know, Prep for Wave Week is a free event, and there are a couple of add-ons. So I talked about the study hall last week, which I am super excited about because we have co-hosts this year. So you not only get to pick my brain, but you also get to pick some amazing industry leaders' brain. And then if you are really wanting to put everything that you have learned from Prep for Wave Week into action, you've got to join us at the Plan Your Year session happening November 21st through the 22nd. The best value that you're going to get in pricing is when you add it to your registration at Prep for Wave Week, which I don't think we've talked too much about pricing. So it's free to get in Prep for Wave Week. If you would like to add on the study hall pass with a couple of bonus resources, it's $35. And then if you would like to add on the study hall pass With the Plan Your Year session, it is just $99. The Plan Your Year session on its own is $99. So you get a lot of extra bonuses if you register during Prep for Wave Week for the Plan Your Year session. And this is another like quickly becoming a fan favorite event every year, the Plan Your Year session, where we actually go through your numbers. You are doing an audit of like, what are the bills that the business needs to cover, and maybe what are some of the dreams that you wish that you would love to have. Like, would you like to invest more? Would you like to go on more lavish vacations? Would you like to be able to hire a coach? Would you like to be able to do a rebrand? And looking at those numbers, because we're using the lead generation calculator, we're thinking about where you want to be next year. You figure out what your yearly income goal, and now you have a sales target. Now you know, okay, if I want to make X amount of commission, then this is how much I need to sell next year to make X amount of commission. So then we go to planning out your sales mix. What will you be selling? What will be your planning fees, and how much are you going to charge at different levels if you have different levels? Are you going to be selling entirely cruises? Are you going to be selling entirely groups? Are you going to be selling entirely luxury FITs? And figuring out how much of those do you need to sell within the year to make and achieve that sales goal that you have already figured out. And then once you have your sales mix in place, that's when we can figure out your marketing plan, because we know exactly what you need to sell and how much of it that we need to sell, that you know what needs to be visible to your clientele, whether you are out networking, whether you're doing masterclasses and webinars, whether you have a social media group, or whether you're doing a lot of videos on social media. Instead of kind of like throwing this thing and that thing into your marketing plan, you have a targeted approach now, because you know exactly how much you need to sell. You know exactly the products and how many of it that you need to sell to get to your target goals. So the blinders are up. You know, I love talking about putting the blinders on yourself or your business, and this is the best way to do it at Plan Your Year session. One of the travel advisors last year was able to plan out all the 52 weeks of her blog posts because of the Plan Your Year session. And then because she had so much momentum, decided on her own to go ahead and start writing her Q1 blog posts in December, before the new year even started. That really is the whole point. Before the busyness of the holidays really gets here. Because I know a lot of us like to peel back a little bit and like to spend family time, friend time, being able to enjoy some of these special moments that come in Q4. So if you want to go in prepared, not scared, not overwhelmed, you need to join us at Plan Your Year session and Prep for Wave Week. So that is pretty much all the beans that I have to spill on this amazing event that it's starting in a couple weeks, and the amazing event that will be starting in like roughly 5 to 6 weeks after, so that you can put all your work from Prep for Wave Week together. So without further ado, and links of course will be at the bottom. If you have any questions, like, please don't hesitate to reach out to me as well, because I am happy to guide you through, even if it's to say like, no, you don't need this, or yes, you do need this. I will be completely honest, regardless of the path that you choose. We are continuing the replay of one of my sessions from Prep for Wave Week last year with Miguel Campos of Berkshire Hathaway, where he is going through open Q&A about E&O Insurance. So let's dive in. There are a couple questions that have come in. The first one that I see is, do you include any cyber coverage under your E&O?
So that is a good question. I was really hoping we would be able to discuss that. So
Okay.
we do not offer cyber coverage in our policy. We now, as of this year, because of me, we now have partners that we work with to get cyber insurance.
Awesome.
But it is a different. But here's the most important, and the reason that this is important is not to plug the fact that we can now get it for you. The most important part of this conversation is that we have noticed, and I have reviewed some insurance policies. I'm not going to use any names of carriers that have come over that include cyber coverage in it for like $40 extra.
Okay.
I cannot stress this enough. The type of cyber insurance that a lot of these agents think they are getting is not at all the type of cyber insurance policy that they need. There's two different
Oh.
types of cyber insurance. There's first party and third party. First party is insuring your business's losses. Third party is insuring the losses of your consumer. So almost every single policy out there that's sold online that has it included, it only has third party coverage. And usually the coverage is barely enough to cover an event where you would have to notify authorities and get everybody that is possibly affected enough money to be able to credit monitor for 1, 2, 3, or 5 years. And there's almost no coverage for your own operations. So say a cyber hacker hacks your computer, locks it down. It costs $180,000 to access your computer again.
Wow.
It doesn't include that ransomware. The ones that I have seen usually covers about $25,000. Well, if the average ransomware is over 180K, you need to come up with the other, 160 some thousand? And you're in the travel industry, so if you don't access your computer, you may have 30 groups going out in 2 weeks that you need to make final payments for, but you have no idea who that is and you can't access any of the information. You won't even know what vendors to call because it's all locked down in your computer.
Wow.
Most of them don't have that, and they don't have enough of the coverage.
Okay.
Those cyber add-ons are just a little sprinkle
Like
to make the policy say it's got cyber insurance.
Uh-huh.
And is it better than not having it at all? I guess, but not if it's at the cost of you thinking that you have what you don't have.
Right.
Then no, it's not good. It's a false security that you've got. And you could go again 10 years without something not knowing, even though you had plenty of money to afford the real good cyber insurance. And now you've got $200,000 loss that's not covered. So cyber insurance is probably the most important coverage beyond E&O, and probably the only other coverage that I would advise anybody really to seek unless you have W-2 employees or a retail space. E&O and cyber insurance, but an emphasis on understanding the cyber insurance, not just saying that it has cyber insurance. You need to understand what that means. Most people have no idea that there's such a thing as first and third party. You need to talk to somebody.
Right. No, and I'm even thinking, and I don't even know if this would be like policy inclusive, but I know everybody has Facebook or Instagram, and those hackers on those sites alone are getting really stealthy with how they have you clicking links and things, and then they have your full accounts already.
I'll give you a quick, and I have plenty of time just so you know, Rita.
Okay.
Give you this year, I've had 3 customers that ended up having basically what's called social engineering. Long story short, some hacker went into their email unbeknownst to the travel agent, was monitoring emails, found out that this person was going to be receiving and sending a wire somewhere. They mimicked the email. They then created another email address that was like a digit off, like some sort of it was like some sort of foreign keyboard that was used with a little something that we don't have in America that was added to the web email, and had them wire money to an incorrect party. I had 40,000 or 46,000, 18,000, and like $23,000 that were lost with these individuals. That was just money that was lost. That money still needs to be sent to the correct party. So those losses now are actually doubled. So, and that all falls under social engineering, which almost every one of the policies I've seen online with the cyber added has either none of that coverage or it's less than $25,000 in coverage.
Okay, so how do people kind of like get ahead on that, other than looking at the intricacies of making sure that you're emailing the exact person? Like, are there other ways to get ahead of that?
So I mean, the things in order to kind of prepare yourself for these are, first of all, understanding that this happens. If you don't understand that this type of thing happens, then you're not looking for it and you don't have a prayer. So, just a simple Google cyber crimes to be aware of, or talking if you have a whole a consortium or something like that, or industry like AST or something, they may have some resources. But if you just do a Google search, cyber crimes and what to look for, you'll probably get 3 years worth of information. So being aware of the cyber crimes is the first thing. Okay. Number 2 is having multi-factor authentication on all your devices, specifically your cell phone. Okay. If you have Google, you probably already, or Outlook, you probably have that built into it. But if you don't have it built into whatever you're using, making sure you tick off and whatever settings to add MFA or multi-factor authentication, which is like when they send you a code to access it.
Right.
If anytime your phone is stolen or not in your care or custody for a specific length of time, you may want to run some sort of a scan or change your passwords. Again, changing passwords is another thing. That's a very simple thing. No one changes their password, and everybody's got like that one really, really secure password we think is really, really secure. And so you use it for everything. You know what? If you're using it with a bank that has zero fraud liability, maybe you don't care because you're not going to be responsible anyways, but this is your business. You are responsible.
Right.
So maybe don't use that password for your business. Use something specific and change it on a regimen. Put it in your Google Calendar, Outlook calendar. Every 3 months, change it. And maybe you have a specific pattern. So you're like, oh man, I can't remember this stuff. Find one that's really difficult, and then just curate that one to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. So there's a little bit of a pattern for you.
I like, there was a tip that was given to, like, whatever your yearly goal is, incorporate that into your passport. So it also keeps that goal top of mind.
Sure. I like that. That's good. I've never heard that. I'm going to change mine when we get off the phone. I like that. So those are all some things, and controlling access. Like if you have a bunch of ICs that are working under you, like controlling access to what they have, what do they have access to? And just controlling access, especially if you have like a retail store or something like that, or maybe you have like a small ADU unit on your house that you use as your office space, controlling access to the computer, having your kiddos use your work computer for their schooling and stuff like that. If you have to, you have to, but if you don't have to, probably don't do that. When your kid's trying to get on Fortnite and entering all kinds of different credentials and sending email to here, to there, it makes it vulnerable. Your computer vulnerable. So just be aware of those things, because I can tell you, the amount of cyber losses to small and medium-sized businesses over COVID skyrocketed something like 1,000%. It was absolutely insane. Wow. Ransomware claims used to be under 39,000. The average now is over 189,000 and rising like every day. Because small and medium-sized businesses, you're an easy target, and I don't mean that in a bad way. You don't have $1 million, CTO working for you that does this all day long, and have a whole company that scans your systems all day long. Like we do. But that's bad because hackers know that, and you're working with real money, you're making real money, you're wiring real money. So they can take you for everything very easily if you're not aware of these things. So it is extremely important to take it seriously.
Yeah. A quick question just came in. What are your thoughts on password apps like LastPass to help kind of protect against that?
Yeah, me personally, I don't have a professional opinion on it. My personal opinion is I just don't trust those sites. I have seen, you're giving all of your passwords to one entity, and I've seen the most secure entities in the world, like your medical facilities. They've got all your personal data. Right. And every year, like 8 of them get hacked.
Right. Right. LastPass, I think, was hacked last year.
Oh, so see, I didn't even know that. But yeah, so I wouldn't put all your ducks in one basket. And that is literally putting all of your ducks / passwords in one basket. The unfortunate truth here is that the old fashioned just have to write it down on a piece of paper, kind of annoying thing, not even on a spreadsheet. If it has access, if it's in a Google Doc spreadsheet, people can access that, just paper, write it down. And again, I understand in some respects, it's not realistic for all of your 7,000 passwords. Okay. But maybe for your business, which is your livelihood or close enough to it for some of you, maybe have a sheet of paper for just those passwords.
A question came in about if you're not really sure what your gross sales might be, do you have like a good starting point or kind of like areas that people should consider when they're getting E&O insurance and what they should be telling their agent?
Yep. I can tell you probably, I don't have the exact percentage in front of me, but I can tell you from experience, most new home-based agents, that are coming into this, that are not entirely green, meaning they're not coming into this never having traveled, having no outlet of potential business or anything like that. Like say they were say they were, what's a good, funny example? They were a veterinarian tech before. Now they're totally switching gears.
Yeah.
And they were a cat person, and they were kind of a recluse. So they have no pool of people to pull business. Those people aside, an average home-based agent that's going into this is going to be between $250,000 and $500,000 in sales. And if for all of you that are like, oh my gosh, that's big. Most of the people that get those numbers, they're doing this part-time and hardly working to get those numbers. I mean, travel's expensive.
Right.
You know, and the thing is once you sort of get your name out there, not even in like a big way, your local neighborhood, your local school, your local community, whatever, you're going to be the person to go to. And you can have a group of 10 people going for a girls' weekend that costs $25,000.
Right.
You know, so I always, we get a lot of people that think, oh, $25,000, $50,000. Now, I don't know if they mean in sales, because that makes a big difference, because commissions, because 25,000 in commission would be about 250 in sales. Or if they just don't fully understand how quickly you can build a business in this industry, given the cost of travel and how many people are traveling right now. So that is what I would say. If you're under 250,000, your agent's probably going to ask questions as to why so low.
Okay. This is specifically speaking to retroactive. Does your E&O include full prior acts, or retro starts when the policy is in place?
So if that individual was on the call earlier, I touched on this in the very beginning. So the only time that would ever make any sense is if you are coming from a claims-made policy. If you're coming from a claims-made policy, then you can get prior acts coverage. But just so everybody knows, including the individual that asked the question, prior acts coverage usually is 2 to 3 times the cost of your previous policy that you're paying one time in upfront for us to be able to pick up those claims. They call it prior acts, they call it tail coverage, they call it nose coverage, all essentially the same thing. You're coming from this insurance company, but it's a claims-made format. You're going to us, which is an occurrence-based format. We can pick up those claims, but it comes at a cost. And this is an industry standard. And so, claims-made and occurrence, if you have the choice, you never want a claims-made policy if you have the choice of having an occurrence policy, which is what we have. Claims-made, real quick, that means if I'm insured with Miguel for 2023, and I've been insured with him for 35 years, and then in 2024, I drop coverage on December 25th, and on January 1st, I have $1 million claim, but I drop my policy December 25th. We don't owe you anything, even though we were friends for 35 years. It only covers you while you're insured with me. An occurrence-based format, which is what I sell, if you're insured for 2023 and then we part ways and then you have a claim in 2033 and we haven't talked in 10 years, we still will cover that claim 10 years later because it insures you indefinitely for that period of time you were with us. That's a huge difference. Most people have no clue that that's even a thing.
Okay, so somebody was like, are you occurrence-based?
Yep, we occurrence-based. And most of the stuff you'll find online, if you're buying those they're buying coverage online in 30 seconds or less, they're all going to be claims-made policies.
Okay.
Good for the insurance company, but not necessarily great for the consumer.
Okay. Lots of people or a few people asking about your info if they would like to get in touch with you about E&O insurance coverage, and I'll make sure that is in your portal below. But if you wanted to share any email addresses or websites.
Yeah, my email, the best way to get a hold of me is going to be email, so it goes directly to me, and it'll be miguel.campos@bhspecialty.com. Miguel is you see it MIGUEL.Campos, which is like camp, and then OS at B as in boy, H as in Henry, or Berkshire Hathaway, specialty.com.
Awesome.
If you go to our website, so our website is more heavily focused on the travel insurance side of our business. And no, I do not do travel insurance, and we sell directly through the website.
Totally separate.
Just so everybody knows, don't email me about that. I don't want to flood because everybody's always interested in that. But it's mainly travel insurance on there, and then there's an E&O button on the top where you can get information. But realistically, it's just like 10 questions, and you're going to end up with me anyways. So emailing is probably the better way.
Yeah, before we wrap up, I did want to go over kind of like other things that people can do because, yes, it's nice having insurance, but even when you have insurance, you still have to do other things. Like we always get asked if people are signing a decline insurance type waiver. So, what are those
Sure.
other things operationally within your business that people should be doing to also kind of help mitigate and lessen that risk?
Yeah, risk mitigation strategies. Definitely. So terms and conditions. This is important. I know I talk with a lot of people, and they kind of usually tell me that yes, I use the vendor's terms and conditions. Well, that's great, but guess whose those are? Those are the vendors. So if the
Mm-hmm.
vendor gets sued, they have their terms and conditions, but you can't really. Those aren't going to be very useful to you if you're
Right.
sued. So if Rita and Miguel need to have their own terms and conditions specifically for my company or for my person. And my advice, there are a lot of places to get them online. I do not advise that. I mean, if it's the only thing you can do and afford, it's better than nothing. However, it is a lot of times you're talking 50 different jurisdictions. There's not a good enough site out there that's going to be able to give you great terms and conditions that isn't just an attorney, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can afford to do so, I would go to an attorney to seek out their expertise. And there are some good travel attorneys out there.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just plug Jeff Ment simply because we use him for a lot of to assist us with a lot of different things. And he's extremely good at what he does.
Yeah.
And very reasonable. So I would definitely consider that. And then another one that I have worked with is Chuny Wright, and she's done a lot of things in the travel industry as far as education. So Google either one of those individuals if you're looking to go that route.
Yeah.
Obviously, credit card fraud awareness. You need to be aware. Credit card fraud, it runs rampant, especially in this industry. Googling, searching, just understanding what that even means. What are the signs to look for credit card fraud? Because credit card fraud is one of those things that is not insurable by any insurance company ever at
Mm.
all. So if you use somebody's credit card fraudulently for $100,000 trip to Belize and it turns out to be fraudulent, your business is on the hook for it.
Oh, wow. Whew. That's a big one.
Yeah. So that's, yeah. And obviously that's, a lot of the credit card fraud we see is big, it's big
Mm-hmm.
fraud. So it's damaging to small businesses, damaging to any business, but it's definitely more damaging to smaller businesses.
Right.
So real quick takeaway on that is if you're questioning something, somebody's really, really pushy for this last minute flight one way for 8 people to a weird country you've never heard of, maybe have them fax the front and back of their identification and credit card and call the credit card company. There's a number on the back. Call that credit card company and have them verify with their customer that they are indeed making that purchase. It's going to take you a little extra time, but better than that than being,
Hundreds
bankrupt.
of thousands. Exactly.
So just being aware of that. Use payment authorization forms when you can. If you get credit card chargebacks, the one way to defeat a credit card's chargeback from this unruly customer that didn't like the free coffee in their hotel and now wants $100,000 back, is having a payment authorization form
Mm-hmm.
signed by them or digitally signed by them. That's
Yeah.
important. Keep really good records of everything. There shouldn't be a case where you can't have some sort of email digital timeline of all the stuff you did with this customer. That you have to do that nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no exception. You've got to have a digital timeline. Keep all that stuff. If you're you hate junk in your email and all that, and you want it Zen inbox, that's fine. Archive it, put it in a folder, make sure you don't lose that information, because if you have a credit card chargeback or you have a lawsuit related to something disputing this, that, or the other thing, you're going to need records. We're going to need records in order to defend you. So keep really good records. And if it doesn't make any difference to you, keep them as long as you can.
Mm-hmm.
I would say minimum 5 years on anything if you can.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And especially I'm thinking we're coming up to tax time too. You're going to need some of those for tax time anyways.
Yep.
The last thing that I remember that I was like, I wish more people realize this, because we talked slightly about, and we don't have to go too much into it, where sometimes you can get E&O with a host. I will personally say that's probably not the best thing that you should be doing. You should be getting your own policy. But kind of like connecting that is that you have to also remember, if you're a hosted travel advisor, they're also one of your vendors, like any other supplier is.
Yep.
And so I remember you had brought that up.
Yeah. So this is the one of the more complex, confusing things we discuss, and that I've literally discussed since day one of employment here at Berkshire Hathaway Travel Protection. And that is, a host is essentially a vendor, no different than any of the other vendors. They vend different things. So a host had better have its own E&O policy. If they don't, and I'll be so bold as to say, then you definitely should not be working with a host that does not have E&O insurance. Just that's it. But their E&O insurance, and I insure most of them personally in the United States, their E&O only has their name on it. Rita cannot add her name to the policy,
right,
nor her business. So only a vendor that the host is doing business with, that's not financially making money for it directly as like an IC, can be added to a policy, like a college or something like that, or university or school. So nowhere on the policy does it say Rita or Rita's business. So if Rita or her business are ever sued for some reason, or she books under her business name and there's a loss, the host policy is not going to respond to the loss. The host is going to insure the host. That's what's named on the policy. Now, is there some level of coverage? There is some level of coverage, okay? And that's what hosts typically focus on. And I'm not saying or implying in this conversation that they're doing it for some nefarious reason or anything like that. That's not at all. They are travel experts. They're not insurance experts. So when I have a conversation and we're talking about, is there some coverage under here? And I go into the detail about, yes, there is some coverage. When you, as a potential IC, ask them if there's some coverage or if they have coverage, the answer is yes. They're not going to spend 3 hours going over insurance with you. That's not why you chose them. Let's be honest. You chose them for their economy of scale, their platform, etc. But you ask a simple question. Do you have E&O insurance? They give you a simple answer. Yes. It's your job to determine what that means, on what level. And I can tell you that there isn't a host policy out there that has your name on it. And if you're sued and your name is on the summons, you have no coverage. So that's extremely important to understand. It doesn't matter. I've worked with or dealt with pretty much every host in the United States. There isn't a single one that is going to have your name on it or can add your name on it. So just be aware of that. And if you don't have insurance right now and you have no idea what the cost is, take the time and go find out, because to just chance it because you think it's unaffordable, that's probably not a good business practice.
100.
So take the time, work with your insurance companies, work with your insurance agents to really understand what it is you need, what it is you don't have, your liabilities, your risks, and find out, where you fit in or where insurance will fit into your business plan, because there should be room for it. There needs to be room for it.
Right. First off, thank you so much for taking the time. I know we are cutting it close and I have to join study hall in just a few minutes.
No problem.
Natasha just wrote in with a couple questions and I think they're fairly simple. So we'll answer these out and then wrap up. Do you and your agents do training throughout the year with your travel agents in Berkshire Hathaway?
So we don't do trainings per se, if I'm understanding what I think you mean by trainings. We don't have set dates where we just invite people to do trainings or anything like that. I don't really think anybody in this industry really does that, to be honest. However, what we do is things like this. This is, I probably do 20, 30 webinars a year with people like Rita, that I'll do. I've done podcasts. We'll do things like that. We also have had videos. You'll see them in my email signature and stuff like that. You can see they just kind of animate, an insurance claim or insurance issue as well, or things to contemplate as far as risk is concerned. That's typically what we do. Back in the day, we used to do seminars and stuff in person at trade shows. That's not really a thing anymore since COVID. We do everything online. I am open to it. We do have to mind the fact that we have to be here for our customers as well. And if I'm just spending all my time educating, that's not going to work. The logistics just don't work. So we tend to keep it to larger platforms or something smaller that can be larger if it's being posted somewhere.
Right. I'm like, oh, maybe possible podcast episode in the future. The second question was, do you offer any resources like recommended forms besides the credit card authorization forms and travel insurance waivers that we should be using for our agency that may come up in different cases or claims?
No, we don't. And there's a good reason. We don't want to be held liable for something not working if it doesn't work, because then you
Okay.
could hold us liable saying it didn't work. So, and there's 50 different jurisdictions. So we wouldn't possibly have that amount of collateral material, because that's 50 different attorneys we'd have to be dealing with to get 50 different forms.
Mhm.
So it's not a feasible thing for us to do. For travel insurance waivers, if you're selling travel insurance, your travel insurer should be able to give you those. I don't know of any that don't have some sort of travel insurance waiver.
Mhm.
And then resources like ASTA, CLIA, Nest, et cetera, a lot of those will have sort of sample terms and conditions. But as I said earlier, be aware, a lot of these are just generic. So generic stuff
Right.
a lot of times won't hold up in court, really on any level.
Right.
Only one devised by an attorney for your specific company, for your specific jurisdiction, is really going to be the best solution.
Right.
The other is better than nothing, I guess, but more or less as a scare tactic to a consumer. Like, hey, you sign this, Miguel, okay, and they go away. But if they're not scared off by that, it's probably not going to hold a lot of weight in court if it wasn't actually drafted by an attorney using all the legal jargon for that particular jurisdiction in that particular year.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, I feel like really good resources are probably some of the attorneys that you mentioned. And I know I've utilized Tom Carpenter, who I think does a lot of collaborative work with Jeff also. So there's a lot of really great attorneys within the industry that you can get some resources from as well. So I'm going to wrap this up. This was like a chock full, amazing session, like so much good feedback coming in the chat. So
Awesome.
again, thank you, Miguel, for being here and for sharing all the ins and outs that come with E&O Insurance.
Yeah, my pleasure. Happy to do it again. I love educating people on this stuff, because if I was in your shoes, this is not common information realistically. I mean, if we're being real here. So it's nice to be able to have something like this put on so that people can find out what they don't know. So thank you, Rita, for the invite and for doing this for the travel agent community, because I'm sure they appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I love like putting these events on together so that we can have these types of conversations. And thank you, travel advisors. Oh, you've already got an email. Somebody sent you an email.
Perfect.
Thank you, travel advisors, for tuning in. If you have upgraded to Study Hall Pass, I'll see you in a couple minutes. But other than that, it is Foundations Day. We will see you tomorrow on Operations Day. All right. Bye, everyone.
See you later. Thanks, Rita. See you, everybody.
Alrighty, Travel Pro, thank you so much for joining me in this replay from last year's Prep for Wave Week. If this is the type of content, now we're not going to be talking about E&O Insurance, but if this is the type of content that you like, people that are giving you practical tips, practical advice, who are being generous with what they're speaking on, then you need to join us at Prep for Wave Week, friend. And I cannot wait to see you there. It's just prepforwaveweek.com/register, and you'll be all set to go. I will send out a daily email every single day next week to let you know what the sessions are and links so that you can go directly to your favorite sessions and tune in on them. Remember, they are recorded and you do get ongoing access. And then again, if you do any of the upgrades, you just get additional support on your journey as a travel business. So thank you so much for being here. I will see you next week at Prep for Wave Week. Woo!